Welcome back to BTN TV. My name is Lauren Arena. I am a senior contributor at BTN Europe, and I'm very pleased to be joined with Patrick Diemer, who is the chairman of BT4 Europe. Patrick, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Lauren. It's a pleasure.
So a little bit of background around BT4 Europe. So you were established last year as a collection of 13 different buyer associations. Obviously, a new campaign group for the business events industry, business travel industry rather, here in Europe. Can you tell us a little bit about why you decided to launch now?
So we are in long, called the European Network of Business Travel Associations. In short, as you said,
BT4 Europe.
BT4 Europe. That's true. Our long name, the European Network of Business Travel Associations, indicates what role we play.
Mhm.
Our 13 members are business travel associations in their respective home countries. So it ranges from the Scandinavian countries to Italy and Spain.
Mhm.
In continental Europe, we actually have covered everybody. Now, we felt that it needed to come together to raise a stronger voice when laws are made in Brussels.
Right.
The legislators in Brussels have now the authority to make many more impactful laws than on the domestic level.
Mhm.
So as an industry, and particular representing the business travel buyers in this industry, we thought it is necessary that we join forces and raise our voice together in Brussels.
Wonderful. But why now? Is it because we're post-COVID, we're coming back? Because collaboration across Europe has been spoken about for many, many years. Is it purely the post-pandemic recovery that's driven this
That's
kind
a
of
cool question.
meeting of minds?
It was actually right in the middle of COVID when we took the decision and we started the project, because we were all a bit desperate how to deal with the pandemic.
Yeah.
And we were reaching out cross-border to understand what are our friends in Germany doing about it? What are our friends in Spain doing about it? And this collaboration amongst the national business travel associations led to doing something together now also on a European scale.
Right. And since your launch, you've already produced 3 position papers. One focused on sustainability, largely around the standardization of
Yes.
carbon emissions and the data there. The second around digital transformation of the industry, so moving away from paper.
Hopefully so, yes.
Hopefully so. And then the third around the economic value of business travel and trying to understand that. Could you perhaps talk us through each of these and perhaps some of the impending legislation that is coming our way that we probably need to be prepared for?
Yes. So let's start with the last item you mentioned, the economic impact.
Okay.
The economic impact of business travel is completely underestimated because in the larger political arena, we are not on the stage. We are seen as something necessary, but nobody understands how many jobs depend on this industry, how much money is being spent, how much economic value is being created in this industry. There are, however, many obstacles which we face. And it starts with travel restrictions, doing something like the pandemic. So within economic impact, we urge the European Commission to learn actually from what went well and what went not so well in managing the pandemic. And yes, we want open borders also when the next health crisis comes along, because we felt that is something we as countries and societies have learned.
Yeah.
Just to give you an example.
Yeah.
On sustainability, I think it is important to stress that business travel, the buyers of business travel, the users, want travel to be more greener. We, of course, understand that it is something we as societies need to implement to stop greenhouse gas emissions as much as we can. And we want to contribute our piece towards it.
Yeah.
Now, the question is therefore not if we want to do it, the question is, how are we going to do this most effectively? And yes, there's legislation on its way in Europe for standards, for reporting requirements.
Mm-hmm.
And at the moment, we are raising our voice to make these standards and reporting requirements in a way that they are most pragmatic and that they can be implemented easily in companies and other institutions which buy business travel.
Mm. And just a brief background for our viewers today, Patrick and I have just come off a panel talking about all of the challenges involved around making business travel greener and the legislation that's coming down the pipeline. And I was personally quite surprised, Patrick, I don't know about you, when we conducted a poll of the audience in the room and asked them whether they were prepared or had heard about the new corporate sustainability reporting directive.
Yes.
That is really already in force in a way. It was announced and will come into play seriously next year. So it's around the corner. And yet more than half of the people in the room, which were a mixture of buyers and suppliers, but I think mostly buyers, hadn't yet heard of the directive. Was that a surprise for you? I found it quite shocking.
Yes-ish.
Yeah.
To the defense of the audience, I must say we are in the UK, aren't we?
Well,
And it's
yes.
it's a law
But
in
this
the
show
European
is a
Union.
European show.
Yes, yeah, I know. But it's a law in the European Union, and as you work in the UK, it might affect you also, and in particular the larger companies, because the reporting directive starts with making reporting mandatory for larger companies, and as much as you have subsidiaries or you are being headquartered in the European Union, it will affect you. Yes.
Yes.
And the first year from which you have to report your emissions is going to be next year, 2024. You have to submit these reports in 2025, but you need to start now to discuss with your TMC, with your online booking engine, or with any other provider of data, how you report this when the requirement comes into place.
And of course, as we discussed on the panel, that will slowly be expanded. So by 2026, even an SME will be required to report on their emissions and the targets and kind of measures they have in place to combat those.
We think there are 2 million companies and institutions in Europe which buy business travel.
Mm-hmm.
The reporting directive starts with about 45,000 companies in the European Union. So it's the top of the pyramid, which is affected at the moment, but there's a broad range of companies which will be affected in the future, including companies which are in the UK and which do business in the European Union at a later stage, but it will come to them as well.
So what advice would you have for travel managers who would like to understand more and start preparing for this reporting directive?
Now, most companies which are under this reporting requirement will have already, they need to sort out the sustainability reporting within their corporation. Now, business travel is only one element of that, because the sustainability reporting will range from commute, like commute to the office, commute back home. It will range from production. It will range to the electricity the company is using, the buildings it is utilizing. So it is across the different functions of the company and the different activities of a corporation. It ranges. So every company will have to have a sustainability manager to be sure that they are able to comply with the reporting, if not the reduction requirements which come with that. Business travel plays a role. This can be from a few percentage points, typically in a production company. Business travel makes up maybe only a few percentage points of the emissions, but it can be much larger. Also, for instance, in a consulting firm where business travel is the largest proportion of the emissions they provide.
Yeah. So there's lots that can be done, but I think the key takeaway for me is that you need to collaborate with your TMC, you need to collaborate with your online booking tool, and first and foremost, if you're in the travel department, you need to talk with your sustainability department, because often they work in silos, and I think business travel, yes, it's scope 3. Most companies are focused on scopes 1 and 2 now, but we need to be ready.
Yes, yes, and the reporting will be on scope 3 as well. So it will be integrated.
Yes.
Talking about the two examples you mentioned, the TMCs and the OBEs, I would think that in the future, an RFP for a TMC, an RFP for an OBE, or an RFP for any supplier will include the reporting data for CO2 or greenhouse gas emissions.
Yes. Well, Patrick, I think we could really dive much farther into this topic, but we've already reached our 10-minute limit, surprisingly.
But let me just tell you that I'm
Yes.
very grateful that BTN has so much emphasis on sustainability, because the business travel buyers want business travel to become greener, and we across the industry, we need to join forces to make this happen.
Indeed.
Thank
and on
you.
that note, thank you, Patrick, and thank you for watching.